The night the secret surfaced was colder than usual, the kind of cold that creeps into broken shoes and thinner hopes, and it began with a sight so ordinary that no one would have guessed it would change lives forever. A homeless boy sitting on a cracked sidewalk under a flickering streetlight, pulling the sleeves of his oversized hoodie down to hide an old, faded tattoo on his arm, unaware that this single mark carried a story powerful enough to shake even the most feared men on the road. And before we go deeper into this story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and hidden humanity, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this remind us how connected we all really are. The boy's name was Ethan Miller, barely 15, thin as a shadow, eyes too old for his age, surviving day by day near a rundown gas station on the edge of town where truckers stopped and bikers passed through like storms, and Ethan had learned early that invisibility was survival, that if people didn't notice you, they couldn't hurt you, couldn't ask questions you had no answers for, couldn't send you back to places you escaped from. Yet the tattoo on his arm refused to let him disappear completely, a crude but deliberate mark etched years ago, not by choice but by circumstance, inked in a time when he was smaller, weaker, and living in a world where adults made promises they never kept. The tattoo was old, uneven, bearing a symbol and a name most people wouldn't recognize, but those who did felt their stomachs tighten instantly, and on that night, a group of Hell's Angels bikers rolled into the gas station, engines roaring like distant thunder, leather vests heavy with patches that made people look away out of instinct, men hardened by roads, losses, and loyalty, stopping only for fuel and coffee before disappearing again, except fate had other plans, because as Ethan rummaged through a trash bin for half-eaten food, the sleeve of his hoodie tore slightly, exposing the tattoo for just a moment, long enough for one biker, Marcus Hale, to see it from across the lot, and Marcus froze in a way that didn't match his size or reputation, his gaze locked not on the boy's face but on the ink itself, because that tattoo whispered a secret only a few in the world knew, a secret tied to brotherhood, betrayal, and a child long thought lost, years ago. Before the road carved lines into Marcus's face, there had been a mission gone wrong, a promise to protect someone who vanished into the system after a violent night, a boy taken away, a name buried under paperwork and guilt, and that same symbol had been used once, not as a threat but as protection, a way to mark family when blood wasn't enough. And seeing it now on the arm of a homeless kid shattered the walls Marcus had built around his past, Ethan felt the stare before he understood it. The weight of eyes that didn't look through him but into him, and panic tightened his chest because attention usually meant trouble, meant running, meant fists or police, and he was tired of running, tired of nights where hunger gnawed louder than fear, tired of pretending he didn't care whether he woke up tomorrow. Yet something different happened this time, because instead of shouting or threatening, the bikers grew quiet, one by one noticing Marcus's reaction, sensing that something was wrong in a way that demanded respect. And as they watched the boy huddle in on himself, memories surfaced for them too, of sons they rarely saw, of brothers they lost, of lives that could have gone another way. Ethan's life until that point had been a long chain of struggles, foster homes that felt like cages, adults who saw him as a problem to manage, nights spent hiding under bridges listening to the city breathe above him, clutching the memory of a man who once promised to come back for him. A man with a rough voice but gentle hands, who told him that family wasn't about where you came from but who stood by you when the world turned cold, and when that man disappeared, Ethan had believed the promise was a lie, that everyone eventually leaves, yet the tattoo remained, a reminder he both hated and clung to, because it was proof that at least once, someone cared enough to mark him as theirs. The tension in the air grew thick as Marcus slowly approached, his boots heavy on concrete, every step echoing with years of regret. And Ethan braced himself for whatever came next, his heart pounding so loud it drowned out the engines, but instead of cruelty, there was recognition, a recognition that cut deeper than anger ever could, because the boy wasn't just another homeless kid, he was living evidence of a failure that had haunted them all, and in that moment, the Hell's Angels were forced to confront a truth they couldn't ride away from: family doesn't stop being family just because time passes. What happened next stunned everyone watching from a distance, because rather than turning their backs or calling authorities, the bikers did something unexpected, something that rippled through the quiet night. They stayed, forming a silent barrier between Ethan and the rest of the world, offering warmth without words, protection without conditions, and for the first time in years, Ethan felt safe enough to stop shrinking, to let his guard drop just a little, and as the hours passed, the story behind the tattoo surfaced piece by piece, not through spoken dialogue but through shared understanding, gestures, and memories that didn't need explaining, and with each passing minute, the boy's future shifted, slowly, painfully, towards something brighter. The challenges didn't vanish overnight, because healing never does, and trust takes longer to rebuild than it does to break, but the change had begun, marked not by loud promises but by actions, meals shared, phone calls made, doors opened that had been closed for too long, and the town that once ignored Ethan now watched in disbelief as men they feared became the ones standing up for a child no one else had protected. Seasons changed, and so did Ethan, gaining weight, gaining confidence, learning what it meant to belong again, discovering that his past didn't define his worth and that survival didn't have to be lonely, and the tattoo that once felt like a curse transformed into a symbol of resilience, of being found after being lost. And just before this story reaches its end, take a moment and comment below what you think that tattoo truly represents to you, because every mark carries a meaning shaped by the eyes that see it. In the end, the secret whispered by that old tattoo wasn't about gangs or danger, it was about responsibility, about the promise that when you claim someone as family, you don't stop searching when things get hard. And if this story touched your heart even a little, if it made you believe that compassion can come from the most unexpected places, please like, share, and engage with this video, because your support helps stories like this reach others who need hope. And as the screen fades to black, one truth remains clear: sometimes the people the world fears the most are the ones who understand loss the deepest, and sometimes all it takes to change a life is for someone to finally recognize you and refuse to look away.